December 4, 1977. In the Central African Republic, a nation still struggling with poverty and instability, crowds watched in disbelief, as Jean-Bédel Bokassa crowned himself emperor. A spectacle, costing an estimated $20 million, nearly a third of the country's annual budget. He rode in a golden carriage, pulled by horses flown in from France. His crown, encrusted with diamonds, weighed more than 7 pounds. The ceremony was modeled after Napoleon's coronation, but for a country of fewer than 2 million people, it was less a celebration, and more a warning. How did a man who once served as a simple soldier, rise to claim the title of emperor? And why do historians still debate whether Bokassa was a mad tyrant, or a tragic reflection of post-colonial politics? Early life and rise. Jean-Bédel Bokassa was born in 1921, in a small village in Ubangui, then a French colony. His father died when he was young, leaving him largely to fend for himself. At just 18, Bokassa joined the French colonial army. He served with distinction during World War II, and later in Indochina, earning medals and praise from his superiors. By the early 1960s, Ubangui had become the Central African Republic, independent from France. Its first president, David Dacko, appointed Bokassa as head of the army. Perhaps he saw him as loyal muscle. But what Dacko didn't see was the ambition burning behind Bokassa's eyes. On New Year's Eve 1965, Bokassa staged a military coup. Within hours, he seized the capital, ousted Dacko, and declared himself president. His reign had begun. The uncle of the nation persona. At first, Bokassa styled himself as a fatherly, patriotic leader. The uncle of the nation. He visited villages, gave passionate speeches, and promised to modernize the country. But beneath the image of a kindly uncle, lay a man who craved power, wealth, and absolute control. Critics were silenced. Opponents jailed, tortured, or simply disappeared. By the early 1970s, Bokassa ruled with an iron fist, demanding absolute loyalty. His face appeared everywhere, on coins, stamps, and billboards. Meanwhile, he indulged in extravagance. While his citizens lived in poverty, Bokassa amassed luxury cars, built lavish palaces, and fathered more than 50 children with dozens of wives. From president to emperor by 1976, being just president was no longer enough. Bokassa dissolved the government, and declared that the Central African Republic would now be the Central African Empire. He crowned himself Emperor Bokassa I, imitating his idol, Napoleon Bonaparte. The coronation itself became infamous. World leaders hesitated to attend, embarrassed by the sheer extravagance. Bokassa demanded French champagne, haute cuisine, and a custom-built throne shaped like a golden eagle. His coronation robe trailed 20 feet behind him, while outside the palace walls, ordinary Central Africans struggled to find their next meal. The dark side: brutality and allegations behind the glitter. Bokassa's rule grew darker. His regime became synonymous with violence and fear. Foreign journalists and Amnesty International accused him of personally beating, even torturing prisoners. Schools and universities were tightly controlled. Students who spoke out were met with brutal punishment. In 1979, Bokassa sparked international outrage. He ordered school children to wear expensive uniforms, from a company run by one of his wives. When students protested, hundreds were arrested. Witnesses reported that dozens were tortured and killed. Some even claimed Bokassa himself took part in the beatings. And then came the most chilling allegations. Rumors spread that Bokassa practiced cannibalism, that he consumed the flesh of his victims. French investigators later brought these charges to court. But the evidence was thin, and the accusations were never fully proven. Still, the rumors stuck. And to this day, Bokassa is remembered as the Cannibal Emperor. Historians caution that the label may have been exaggerated, even weaponized politically. But true or not, the story cemented his reputation as one of the most terrifying rulers of the 20th century. The fall of the emperor, September 1979. Bokassa was visiting Libya. While he was away, France launched Operation Barracuda, a military intervention that restored David Dacko to power. Bokassa fled into exile, first to the Ivory Coast, then to France. For years, he lived quietly in a mansion outside Paris, protected by the very country that had once helped him rise. But in 1986, Bokassa shocked the world. He voluntarily returned to the Central African Republic. He was immediately arrested, and put on trial. In 1987, Bokassa faced charges of murder, torture, and embezzlement. He was sentenced to death, later commuted to life in prison. Yet in another bizarre twist, he was released after just 6 years. Bokassa lived his final days quietly in Bangui, until his death in 1996. Legacy monster or product of the times. Jean-Bédel Bokassa remains one of the most infamous rulers in African history. To some, he was a megalomaniac tyrant, a man who starved his people, while living like a king. To others, he was a symptom of the fragile post-colonial system. Propped up by foreign powers like France, then discarded when he became too much of a liability. In 2010, the Central African Republic even issued a partial rehabilitation of his memory, describing him as a great builder. This sparked outrage. How could such a brutal leader be honored? But it also showed something else. The complexity of his legacy. Was Bokassa truly insane? Or simply ruthless? Was he a mad emperor, or a tragic reflection of the corruption and exploitation that haunted so many post-colonial nations? One thing is certain, his story remains one of the most bizarre, chilling, and controversial chapters in modern history. A tale of power, greed, and the dangers of unchecked ambition.